Sansa?
Oh my goodness. We're going to have another exciting show. We're excited to bring on Yahaira Lopez, and we were teasing Tim about his new exploration into Goya products.
That's right. They make cookies.
Yes, they
not
do.
Not just malt soda.
And all kinds of other things.
That's
honey.
right. They're crazy.
Oh my goodness. The quarantine giving us a little time to expand Tim's world here.
That's right. And what's that spice you got me the other day?
Oh, adobo.
Adobo.
Yeah.
Adobo.
Oh, yes. So we're rocking Tim's world as we do every morning.
It's
and
crazy.
We're so excited that you're here with us as well. Today is Tuesday. It is March 31st, as we always remind you.
That's right. It is National Doctors Day. So thank you to all the doctors out there putting their lives on the line to help patients during the coronavirus epidemic.
Yeah, if ever there was a time for us to be grateful for doctors, certainly it would be this.
That's right.
And we were actually we're broadcasting from Boston, Massachusetts. We're reading in the Boston Globe that unfortunately some hospitals, because they've had to cancel, your well visits, some of our elective procedures, all of that, that they're actually suffering from some financial trouble. Some doctors are actually owed back pay that they're not being paid right now. So could you imagine going through this situation where you don't have enough PPE, which we all know is personal protective equipment now? You're fighting this virus, and then there's some question about whether or not your hospital is financially stable, and whether or not you're going to
putting your life on the line, living in your car because you don't want to go back to your home where your family is and possibly infect them. It's horrible. It's a crazy situation and unnecessary.
Yeah. So thank you, doctors. We thank you, nurses. We thank all of our healthcare workers out there that are doing an amazing job of taking care of us during this really critical time. And we would be remiss if we did not once again remind you that their best advice to all of us is to stay home.
Stay home, please.
Do not go out.
There's no reason to go outside.
Absolutely necessary.
That's right.
But a lot to get to this morning. Yahaira Lopez from Autism Sprinter is going to be joining us, talking about what's going on with her kids and what's happening in Massachusetts, but also what's happening in the autism community.
Yes.
Those folks very upset right now about whether or not there's been enough attention being paid to our children who have special needs. She's an expert on the issue, and she's fired up. So
that's right, and she's a busy mom making breakfast right up until the time she jumped on the show here.
That's right.
That's how we roll.
Life goes on.
That's right.
And life is going on for me this morning because I'm actually moving today.
That's crazy.
Right. So
good timing.
Moving to good timing. Like life goes on. Like this was planned.
Right.
My lease is up. Got to keep it moving. Made the decision that we were going to be relocating before the pandemic happened, and today is moving day. So,
that's right. So how are you dealing with it?
Not well. And I want to share this with all of you because life is going on for many of us who have had to figure things out in a brave new world. But there was all kinds of additional steps. It's already like a crazy thing. If you've ever had to move, moving sucks. Moving's the worst thing ever.
Like
even under the best of circumstances. But now I had to call the moving company.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I actually have a moving company that I was able to secure because I wasn't sure if that was going to happen. My moving day was moved. We weren't sure whether or not movers were going to be an essential business that was going to be open, but under Charlie Baker's order here in Massachusetts, they are essential. So we had our moving date, although it was moved from Sunday to today, still here. Then there's a whole bunch of procedures that they now go through where they're wiping things down, they're using sanitizer, they're doing all kinds of things. To make sure that they're safe.
So they're taking the necessary precautions.
They're following apparently the CDC guidelines for movers, which is a thing, which is amazing.
They're touching stuff. They're touching all of your stuff.
Yeah, I'm so grateful, and it's interesting because I've been reading a lot about movers, how long COVID-19 stays on your items, how to keep them safe, how to keep us safe. Whether or not we should be nervous about deliveries to your home, because it's very similar in terms of people touching stuff that's going to enter your home. But from what we hear from doctors right now, it should be okay. But the thing is, we just don't know.
I might come by and wipe stuff down anyway.
Yes, which I will appreciate. And we'll probably leave it there in the new place. Let it sit. Let it sit.
Disinfect.
Let time lapse. I don't know.
I don't know.
Nobody knows. So, but it has to be done.
Yep.
That's a crazy thing. My friend Becca, by the way, talk about other things that are just going on. The world still continues to turn. People were pregnant at the beginning of quarantine.
Yep. They were.
People continue to be pregnant. People are giving birth.
Yep.
All of this stuff is
Life
happening.
is going on.
Life is happening. And so we're having to figure out what that looks like. And a dear friend of mine, Tim Keri, who lives in southeastern Massachusetts, she is expecting a baby.
Oh, that Becca.
Literally
Great.
any minute. Yeah, she's such a sweetheart. And she's just so wonderful. And her husband is actually a newspaper columnist in southeastern Massachusetts. So there's a lovely article about them in South Coast Today, just talking about their experience, what they're nervous about. You know, depending on what state you're in, it's not even possible in some states to have your husband or your partner with you when you're giving birth. So could you?
I couldn't imagine not being there.
I can't even imagine. So, you know, there's so much happening day to day, and it's, you know, we're just trying to, you know, do our best to kind of navigate the situation. But these are the real life situations families are facing right now.
That's right.
Becca is taking every precaution to keep herself safe, to keep her baby safe. She also has a toddler at home who's 2 years old.
Yeah.
And, you know, giving birth can be, you know, even as a second time mom, can be scary enough. But in this pandemic and not knowing what's happening in hospitals, it can just be, you know, adding to that anxiety. So we're thinking about her.
And we're dealing with a lot of real life things. I mean, Juanita Salas Jackson just brought up a good point. What about sales papers delivered to my doorstep? Should I worry? So I'm thinking she means like the rules, like the grocery store ads and things like that.
Or the actual newspaper.
The actual newspaper.
Yeah, the sales papers. You're right.
Well, me personally, so I live in a family home. I can tell you right now, I take all those papers, and I take, if my parents get any trash papers, I put them right in recycling. If you want to, Juanita, what I'm thinking is, I do that anyway. I do that anyway, let alone during a pandemic. Juanita, this is what I'm thinking. Let them build up, maybe put some gloves on, go out, take them, wrap them in a bag, and put them in your recycling.
But then that gets down to like whether or not we should be concerned about mail, like typical mail.
Yeah.
We do a personal Facebook Live called What's in the Box.
That's right.
You know, we got to keep ourselves busy over here too.
That's right.
And opening up our Amazon boxes for all of you out there to discover with us what it is that we've purchased on Amazon is fun for us. But, you know, you think about, you know, are those Amazon boxes okay? Is your mail okay? What we're being told now is that it is okay, that
they take precautions.
They take precautions. They don't believe that there's any transfer or the amount of time, you know, all of that. All I know is what doctors are saying, what the CDC says is it's okay for mail. It's okay for deliveries. It's okay for food deliveries.
Yeah, I don't have any choice. Jeff Bezos rules my life.
Yes, he does. But, you know, that's the best information.
But it's a valid concern. It's a very valid concern.
And that is something that people are thinking about, and so we appreciate it. And if you have a concern, something that's on your mind, certainly bring it up to us. We love your comments. This broadcast now reaching 472,000 people.
That's crazy.
Can you imagine? So pretty incredible reach for the little parent union that could over here. We're so grateful to have you with us every morning, and we want to make sure that this broadcast, you know, incorporates your ideas and your thoughts and what you're thinking about. One of the things that we actually thought about was divorce and custody and co-parenting as well, and that's actually something you're going to be talking about tomorrow. You're not going to want to miss this.
It's going to be a big topic tomorrow. I can't wait. So myself and my kid's mom, Angelique, are going to be doing a 15-minute discussion on how we deal with co-parenting. Because,
that's right. We're going to get it direct.
Direct from the source. I mean, there's nothing that two people want to see more than a divorced couple first thing in the morning talking about how they deal with family matters.
But it is a real life thing right now. People talking about, like, how do you deal with child custody?
That's right.
How do you do it? You know, how can you, you know, have the kids go from one house to another? How do you get on the same page?
That's right.
You guys do a beautiful job of it.
Yeah.
And so
And then we're dealing with school things, with IEPs right now that aren't really happening. So there's a lot of things going on. So we'll be talking about all that.
And we're going to learn that communication is key.
It is.
You guys are going to give us a lesson in that.
It's
so
key.
I'm excited to see that. All of that. In addition, wanted to bring up too, again, life is happening. Life is happening. And in our family, we've had some difficult life lessons in the past year. It's been quite a journey. My ex-husband passed away after a long battle with stomach cancer this last July. And my 3 little boys lost their dad, and it was a very, very difficult time. And we really sought support from the outside community. Some important resources for them because they're little. My little boys, Matthew, Miles, and David, are 7, 8, and 12. At the time, they were 6, 7, and 11. So this has been a tough first year. It's been a first year of going through first birthdays without daddy, losing teeth without daddy, first day of school without daddy, first Christmas without daddy. His birthday is actually coming up on Saturday. And so, going through all of that. So there's been a very special organization that we have been a part of that has really become a part of our family, that is very close to our heart, was instantly there for us to provide support. It's called Camp Kesem, and it's a special place for children who have a parent who has been impacted by cancer or who have lost a parent with cancer, through cancer. And just about, I want to say 10 days after my ex-husband passed away, they went to Camp Kesem for the very first time. And it was just a transformative experience. It's a place where they are not the only kids that don't have a daddy, because that was really one of the first things that came up for the baby,
Right.
David. He thought he would be the only kid in his class and the only kid that didn't have a dad.
Right.
And really struggled with that. But then he was able to connect with a whole group of kids where, he was not different. And he was not unique for that reason. He was unique because he's David.
Right.
And actually at camp, his name is Dynamite. So his Camp Kesem name is Dynamite. My Miles, his Camp Kesem name is Dash. And then Matthew is Gear. And Camp Kesem is just an incredibly special place that has provided incredible support. And unfortunately, because of COVID-19, we just found out that this camp, which opens up for a week every summer, where they're able to get this incredible support, is actually not going to be operating this summer because of COVID-19. And this has just been a crushing blow for our family, unfortunately, even, excuse me, just thinking about it, because this is such a special place. And Camp Kesem is actually run by college students. The one that we attend is actually done through Boston University. These kids fundraise all year long so that they can provide this free camp for kids like mine in this safe space where they can just be normal kids and not have to worry about cancer, not have to worry about big adult things, which unfortunately, when you lose a parent or you have a parent who's facing cancer, it can just be incredibly, it can just be a moment where suddenly the world gets very, very big and very, very scary. So these amazing college kids at Boston University do an incredible job of putting this on every year. They've had to cancel their events, the family support events where we all kind of get together on a Saturday to do some events together. Those have had to be canceled. So I'm just putting up on the screen right now. This is my donation page, where if you are so inclined and would like to continue to support these kids and their work, the kids at Boston University at Camp Kesem, this is how you can do it. You can go to my donation page at Camp Kesem for Boston University to just help to encourage these college kids to keep going. They're trying to find out new and innovative ways to keep the program going, even though they're not going to be able to hold camp this year. It's incredibly important, especially for children like mine that look forward to it all year long. I got to tell you, you remembered when David came home.
Oh my God! So can I tell you the story?
Yeah.
The first picture, I wish we had it yet. The first picture of the first day, he looked miserable.
Yes.
He was so upset that he had to go there. I could not believe it.
overnight camp, and he could not talk to mommy.
No, but when he came home, he had this necklace and this bracelet. He didn't take it off for months.
That's right.
Until it broke off.
He made these beautiful camp string bracelets. He kept them on until they fell off his body. And he came home singing songs. They all did, singing songs, and these beautiful, pictures of them covered in paint and just having this extraordinary experience. So I'm so sad for them that they're not going to experience it, but we're hoping that Camp Kesem will remain strong so that we can go back next year.
That's right. And if we could put this up on the scroller right now, on the crawler, if you want to donate to Keri's page, it is donate.kesem.org/fundraiser 252-4092. Donate.kesem.org/fundraiser 252-4092. And if we can't put that up now, we will put that up by the end of the show.
That's right.
To make sure that people know where to donate.
And we'll put it up in the comments too.
As well.
And even, $5 helps. But it means the world to the college kids that puts it together, and it certainly means the world to families like mine. So.
Great. Thank you, Kim.
So what's happening in the news today, Tim?
Ooh, I gotta tell you,
it's constantly, every single day, it's more and more bad news. But you've got to make sure that you've got the latest.
That's right. Unfortunately, and there we go right now. Donate.kesem.org/fundraiser 252-4092. And we'll post that online and in the comments as well.
Thank you so much, guys.
That's great. And in the news, unfortunately, the U.S. death toll has reached 3,000. I feel like that's jumped literally 1,000 in the last 2 days. Also, according to a model cited by the White House, by White House epidemiologist Dr. Birx, they think it's likely that we will see about 82,000 deaths by August, whether or not and even that's with social distancing. Even with social distancing, we're likely to see 82,000 deaths. That's horrible news. That's horrible.
It's interesting what they're saying right now is that, this is not, we're not at the peak. Even at this point, we're looking at 2 or 3 more weeks before we actually hit the peak of what we're.
Yes.
And that could be one of many peaks. This is something that could ebb and flow depending upon our behavior and whether or not we stay home and follow the directions of the CDC and medical experts and our governors, which I think is the most important thing. Yeah. Listen to your governor.
Yeah, but that's why they're preparing now too. Like they said, Dr. Birx said, they're going to exceed the capacity for hospital beds and facilities. Like President Governor Cuomo said yesterday, that's why they're stockpiling. That's why they're stockpiling hospital beds, masks, meatballs, sausages, everything he needs to survive, and he's doing the right thing. They're using, I believe, the Javits Center as a hospital for non-corona patients. They have a ship in port for non-corona patients as well. So they're planning for the worst.
What I also like and see them doing right now, which President Governor Cuomo was talking about yesterday, was the fact that he's asked the hospital systems to start working as an interconnected family, where they're sharing staff and resources. If one hospital has a ton of masks and another doesn't, move the masks. If one hospital is overrun with COVID-19 patients and the other hospital has room, move the patient.
That's right.
Make it happen. Don't let red tape or any kind of arguing or ego or political drama.
Just help the patient.
Just help them. All
hands
on deck.
Together.
Unprecedented yesterday that they were able to bring together all of the hospitals in New York, and you think about that. That's extraordinary. I'm a former member of 1199 SEIU, United Healthcare Workers East out of New York, where we had hundreds of thousands of healthcare workers across the state. That hospital system is just extraordinary, both public and private. So to see them kind of functioning together is incredible. And that is all in part, because of the leadership that we're seeing from Governor Cuomo, who said, enough, everybody's getting on the call. This is what we need to do. Who's up for it? And they're all rising to the occasion.
That's what we need.
That's what we need. That's the leadership.
That's what we need. Also, too, sadly, in more corona news locally near us, about an hour or so away from us, 11 veterans at a Massachusetts home for soldiers have died. 5 did test positive for coronavirus. That's at Holyoke, Mass, about an hour away from Boston. It's a home for about 233 residents. Unfortunately, 11 more residents and 5 staff have also tested positive, and 25 are waiting for the results of the testing. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for them and for the doctors helping them.
That's right. Well, Tim, thank you so much for the news this morning.
Thank you.
Again, it is Tuesday, March 31st, 2020. And as is our custom every morning, we welcome Mira Brown from Prepared Parents, who's joining us live from Austin, Texas, to give us some information to get us centered around our day and what we can do to be helping our kids as we embark on yet another fantastic day of school at home.
That's right.
So,
Let's
Mira,
bring Mira
are you
on
with us?
Hey,
Good
Mira.
morning.
Good morning, Mira. So how was yesterday? How'd we do?
We did okay. The morning was a little rough. I don't know. I tried a lot of different things. Gabriel was having, it's interesting. I have the 2-year-old. I think I shared that, right? I do morning. My husband does afternoons. And it's really hard to sort of manage and support and do sort of the learning activities with Gabriel. And then I have the 2-year-old, mommy, Daniel Tiger, mommy, play trains, and the two of them sort of competing for attention all morning. So it was, I'm going to get better at it. It will take time. But it was a little rough. I'm not going to lie. I'm not sure I aced it yesterday morning.
A lot of with being a mommy of 2. Like, I'm a mommy of 3, and let me tell you, girl, whew,
I don't know how you do it.
there is not enough attention, and there's only me, as I just shared. And Mira, I want to take a moment and thank you so much for your donation to Camp Kesem as well. That was wonderful, and thank you so much.
Of course.
For reach our goal. But me being the only parent, that is a lot of pressure, because why are you helping him and you're not helping me? That means you don't love me as much. Like, my kids are a little older, so they're able to better.
Luckily, my kids don't have that language yet, but it comes out in other 2-year-old ways, right? Like stomping on the ground.
Yeah. So navigating that, I think, is just, in the best of circumstances, is not the easiest thing to do, but having to do it, when you're forced to stay in the living room, there's no escape.
There's nowhere. And we had a rainy day yesterday, and so that made it harder. And then I finally got the kids outside, and we were doing like races, just trying to get some wiggles out. You talk about little boys who just need to run and move. My kids need that like every hour. And then it starts to rain, and my 6-year-old has a lot of anxiety around sort of unknown, right? And so thunderstorms, it's gonna storm, we have to go inside. I was like, it is literally drizzling. It actually feels like so I finally got us outside and then back inside. And so, what's interesting, and I'm gonna think more about this for sort of one of our times together, but my husband and I were reflecting. These are our evening before bed conversations right now. And he was talking about, like, I talk about the morning and then he talks about the afternoon since we split it. And there's no other time to talk to each other, let's be clear, during the day. And he was like, we're all becoming, he's like, I'm so tired. We're all becoming so me-centric. And I sort of paused for a second and I thought about that. He's like, the kids are just me, 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 me. And he's like, and you and I and all of us, me, 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 me. And of course, I was like, that's such a good thing to talk about. I just need to think about that for prepared parents. He's like, my point exactly, me, me, me. And so,
yeah, I think that is. I think that is that we've had this pivot to like me, me, me. Is it because we're having to sit with ourselves
and only ourselves,
and the people that we love? So like, I don't know.
We're on top of each other, we're with each other, we're all dealing with it in different ways, and so we only
experience.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to think about it, and then I want to come back and talk about it, because it's really fascinating. Because here we are, also trying to build empathy and know how to be in space together and all of those other things. And I think he's totally right, though, that there's the other side of the coin is, because I think we're all, on top of each other and trying to figure it out, we are becoming. Anyway, it was a very interesting. I was like, that's very thoughtful, Ben. Thank you. Think about that.
You have good ideas.
So, anyway,
always right twice a day, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Whatever.
Anyway, Mira, what are our goals for today?
Yeah. So I was thinking about sort of my two kids yesterday, and I know I've been feeling this tension between sort of my work that I'm really passionate and I care very deeply about, but then obviously my kids and their learning, and then I want to try to still be fun mom and sometimes, and all of these different roles, right, that we're playing right now. And I noticed yesterday, or was it the day before? The days are blurring together.
Right.
That my 6-year-old said to me, "I didn't get any time with you." And I sort of took a step back, and I'm thinking, that is all we have right now, right? Like, we are constantly together. I spend every moment with you, type of thing. And then I thought about that, and I was like, oh, like, it's not about the amount, right, of time, because we are spending a lot of time together. It's actually about maximizing those shorter bursts of time together actually mean more. And so that actually felt like very calming to me last night when I was like thinking about that, because here I am trying to figure out how to fill whole big periods of time and make them meaningful. And it's just like a lot of added pressure on top of everything else, right, as a parent. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that today, because per the usual, there's a lot of really interesting research and learning science that backs this up that I think as parents we can use. And so if we can think about 5, 10, 15 minutes, it's all it takes for kids, the learning science shows, for kids to feel loved and secure, right? So again, those short bursts of time with our kids are oftentimes the best thing we can give them. And it shows them that they matter. And so there is something called mattering. And it is fundamental to essentially to human development. And it's the belief individually that we make a difference to the world around us. How important am I to others? How interested are others sort of in what I have to say? How much do other people depend on me, right? Like, where am I in the world? Do I matter? And when kids do feel like they matter, right, it can have a profound impact on their self-esteem, on how secure they feel, on their ability to build relationships with other people. And it's a very positive cycle. And so in education, we call it secure attachment. You'll hear the teacher saying, I want to establish a secure attachment. I want to have a bond, because when kids have a bond with an adult, they're able to learn, right? They have confidence. All of these things open up to them. So I think as parents, when we think about however long we're going to be in this together, right, with our kids, what are those short bursts of time where we can essentially do the mattering, where we can show our kids that they matter and have that time be really strong. And so how do we do this? So bear with me. It's going to seem like a lot, but I promise maybe it's a little bit, but it's important. And so there is an organization called the Search Institute, and they are wonderful, and they have a framework of 20 specific actions that you can take, and it's built for educators, but I think it's really important to parents too. So the first one being, show me I matter, right? So as like to do your touch, show me I matter, and I guess as adults too we want this, but show me I matter, right? So listening, being dependable, believing in me, encouraging me, being warm, right? Those types of actions. So if you think about that, the check-in, check-out that we talked about, that moment of the day, the way you start your morning to show your kids, right, that they matter and connect, that short burst of time where you guys can connect emotionally together, the mindful moment, whatever makes sense, right? Show me I matter. Push me to get better. I think that's such an interesting, like, expect me to live up to my potential. Hold me accountable. Reflect on sort of my failures, or help me learn from my mistakes, right? So we talked yesterday about the power behaviors, ways that you can help your kids push through those really tough moments and help them learn from it. Again, sort of small actions throughout the day that we can do so that kids feel like they matter. Help me complete tasks and achieve goals. Something that's so important right now, to whether it's our schoolwork or just what goals we have as a family to cope and get through this, using the self-directed learning cycle, whatever makes sense in that moment, though, like guiding me through hard situations, building my confidence, standing up for me, right? Setting boundaries, right? Those are all things that fall into help me complete tasks and achieve goals. treat me with respect and give me a say. I think that's a really interesting one. We talked about how sometimes that's hard, right? But like taking me seriously, involving me in decisions, letting me lead a little, right? And so all of these are all of the habits that we've talked about, using consensus, a decision grid, figuring out how we're going to work together as a family and involving your kids in that.
And you're a so much you naturally as parents, right? And I think it's almost just important to stop and be a little bit intentional about it, to maybe defuse some of that, like, do I count? Do I matter? You didn't spend any time with me. Maybe to our little people, they don't feel like we're being as intentional, like we're just kind of going through the motions. And, I think the most important thing is to recognize that it's going to look like different things, different days, different people, and different kids. And different kids need more of this. Like some kids are not going to respond to, if you're challenging them always. Right. Like it's kind of like it's building kind of a toolkit of different things that you can try. Right.
And it's a balance. You got to do a little bit of all of it, right? It's not just hold them accountable all the time, to your point. Yeah.
Okay. But this is a good opportunity, too, for us as parents to stop and learn what works best for our kids. So if we're being mindful in that 10, 15 minutes where we're just sitting there and we're saying, okay, like I try to do these with my guys because with 3 of them, like it gets a little chaotic. And sometimes I just have to say like, okay, Mighty, you have my undivided attention. Yeah. I'm listening to you. You can ask me any question you want to ask me. What do you have to tell me? Because what I feel like as the mama of 3 is sometimes they have things that they want to tell me and say to me. They need me to stop and only focus on them. And even just that simple act of, okay, I'm listening to no one other than you, Miles. Tell me everything. Tell me all of the things that you want to tell me. Tell me all of the things in your head. And that I can tell it kind of opens him up and it makes him feel loved because that's kind of like his love language. Yeah. Me just sitting there and he wants to tell me, 10 facts he learned today. Yeah. Or like, do you know what the smallest bone is in the human body? And like for me to just sit and listen to him and ask him questions and just, saying like, baby, tell me more. Say more of that.
Exactly. 5 minutes chunks. Exactly. Even just 5-minute little, and I'm going to try that today. I honestly am. I'm going to try to think about I have my 2, Gabriel and Miles. How can I try out 5-minute chunks where they have my undivided attention? And I really think that will make me feel more connected to my kids because right now we're just doing this all day long. And who feels good when you're constantly butting head with your kids, right? All day long, you don't feel good, your kids don't feel good, and neither one of you got that connection right out of it. And so exactly.
It's super important. It's like in days where we're feeling all of this conflict because we're gonna have bad days. I have bad days, they have bad days, everybody has a bad day, right? And we're gonna feel all that tension and conflict. Or you're going to feel like, oh gosh, I was really concentrating on work today. I didn't do as much of the school stuff as I wanted to. Maybe they had a little bit too much screen time today because I had this meeting. I had to get ready for all of this stuff that is going to happen during this.
Yep.
It's okay to say, if I spent that 10 minutes with them and they had my total attention, that they're going to get something out of this day, which is a bond me and feel loved and important and mattered, and we'll try again tomorrow to add something else. I think, of all of the tips that we talk about with you every single morning, I think this is the most important one is that, even if you don't accomplish every educational goal or every work goal or whatever, if you can just spend, 10 minutes of, time talking. And I think this works with your spouse, your partner, your husband, your wife as well, where you just spend 10 minutes and say, listen, we're going to be human beings. We call it human being time. We're going to spend 5 minutes and just, we're not going to be on phones. We're not going to do anything else. We're just going to talk to each other, giggle about something stupid or whatever it is.
Right.
But it's that time and attention, where you're
showing the other person they matter. Yep. Absolutely. Yep. And I think if nothing, again, we've talked a lot about, if nothing else out of this time, right? What can we help our kids develop? What can we nurture in them? What can we support them or encourage in them? And I agree. Like, I think this one sort of had, when I thought about it, I looked back on it yesterday, had, I think, even a profound impact on me as a parent, but then also like, oh my gosh, yes, of course, right? We have to come out of this in a deeper relationship with our kids. And I don't want that to sound, hokey or whatever, but it's so important right now, I think, for all of us. And again, it takes 5 to 10 minutes, short bursts of time, right? So if you're looking at that long day, split it into short bursts of time where you can give your kids that and show them that it matter. And that's teaching them sort of the same thing to give to you also, which I think is important. So.
Yeah, and they get lost on screen time, and so they talk to you, and I'm like, Earth to Matthew, come in, Matthew. Like, I need to speak to you or focus.
That's a good point. You think of how we feel when our kids do that to us.
Yeah.
Imagine how our kids feel. I mean, there are times when I see my eldest Max get frustrated when I'm trying to do a work thing and I'm on my phone and he's trying to get my attention. I think of how I feel. I can't imagine how a young 8-year-old feels.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is with me all the time, right? I get it. Exactly.
Thank you so much for being with us every single morning. We so appreciate you. Prepared for Success is the website, which I now know, and I'm not screwing up every single morning any longer. This is it right up on the screen right now. You can sign up to become a prepared parent, which I would suggest. You can get Mira's tips there, get more ways to get involved with prepared parents, and we will see you back again tomorrow morning, Mira. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Mira. Have a great day.
I appreciate you both.
All right. Once again, this is the National Parents Union live broadcast for Tuesday, March 31st, 2020. And we are very excited to welcome our next guest. We're gonna leave the dads out of this conversation.
No problem.
It's mommy time, and I am so excited to welcome our next guest, who is a dear friend of mine. She's a warrior. She's a sister in service. And she's a fighter for kids. She is the founder of Autism Sprinter here in Massachusetts and a champion for kids across the country. Yahaira Lopez joining us. Yahaira, how are you?
What's up? I'm doing good. I'm trying to stay as positive as possible during the pandemic,
You know what? You are with us on this broadcast every morning, and I often, or in spirit, I should say, because I am so inspired by your real talk about what is going on in your house, what is going on as a mama, and frankly, your schedule of how Yahaira's handling her house and how you're going to go through the day. You've got to run a tight ship over there. So how is it going in your house? Give us the lowdown here.
So I think for me is, as long as the kids are happy, the kids are eating, and they're not feeling the tensions that I feel like, us adults are feeling, because I think a lot of us are anxious, a lot of us are worried. I don't want them to feel that way. So I'm trying to, have them enjoy this time, because we don't ever really get this much time to be in the house with each other and actually really get to know each other a little bit deeper than usually kind of like they're going to school, mommy's going to go to work, and mommy's in meetings all the time advocating for those with disabilities. And so we're getting to know each other, I think, in a different capacity, and actually really knowing my kids for who they really, really are.
Mm-hmm. And how has that been? How do you like that process?
It's been fun. I have one right now who's a little upset that his brother just ate all the bacon, right?
I did that too.
Hello. That's why I ate all the bacon.
How are you?
Say good morning. Good morning. So he's like, wait, what happened to all the bacon?
I am not for you, honey, because that's brother. That's just not right. Brothers.
Yeah, he's like, wait, we have a problem now. But you know what? We're doing good. I have literally no complaints. I created a little schedule, that kind of keeps us to task. Some of it we really do, some of it we don't. I mean, just something that they can look forward to, and and just have some form of like stability in the house to know that, hey guys, this is all I'm expecting from you guys. Giving them the reminders like, hey, don't forget that from 10 to 12, we're sitting and doing Google Classrooms. Don't forget that you still have, chores that you have to do, but most importantly, teaching them independent skills, which is big for me because I think that now I could use their help in doing laundry, and how to put, load the dishwasher and things like that. So, they're not happy. You heard him. He's like, what? They don't like it. But guess what? That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, and you and I are, we're grown little men here, and so this is the time where we, have the opportunity to teach them, in addition to some educational skills, maybe some cultural influence as well, but really those life skills that we want these young men to have. Because I don't know about you, but I'm not trying to raise, a man who doesn't know how to do for himself. So like actually being able to learn some of these skills from mommy during this time, I don't think it's a bad thing. And, it is what it is.
Yep. And they know on the schedule, it says starting from 6 and down, leave mommy alone. Don't talk to me. We've had whatever you need to do needs to be done through business hours, 9 to 5. After 5, 6 o'clock, leave mommy alone.
So tell me about that. That is one of my favorite parts of your schedule is like leave mommy alone time 6 to 7. Like, you know what you
talk to mom.
Don't talk to mommy. So what happens during mommy time? How did you knew right off the bat that you were gonna need that time in your house. So like tell me about it.
So what I do at that time is I, will follow up on things with Autism Sprinter, making sure that I kind of, share as much content for families who are, affected by the disability to know, hey, these are the resources that we have going on. Don't forget, we have our Facebook group. Join us. Let's have raw and uncut conversation because those are the conversations I like to have. And, kind of just, even if I have to have a glass of wine, I have to have a glass of wine, and that's okay, so just kind of regrouping basically and say, what did I learn today mainly? And how can I do something different that I did today that either triggered me to kind of, as the previous speaker was saying, is kind of like, I don't want to continue to bump heads. So what can I do tomorrow to not deal with what we dealt with today, So kind of just taking that time to re-channel myself.
And I think you are such a leader in just carving out that time for yourself. And that's why we need to talk about this, because there are mothers across the country right now trying to be super mamas, who are feeling like they're failing, who are feeling like they're not doing enough. And you and I are going to have a conversation about our babies with autism and children with, especially for us. Times are difficult. And if you are at that point where you are going to go crazy, you are not going to be able to be there in any way for your kids. So taking that time to like do whatever you want to do. If you work on your own project, you want to work on, doing your nails, you want to do any of that stuff, like that is your time. And it is okay to be a human being and say, you know what, I need that time. You know what I needed last night? Last night, I was just, I don't know, I go through the day and I'm so busy, I'm doing things. I recognize the fact that like, I had not been taking any time to process the fact that this feels really overwhelming to me. And I'm sad that, the way of life that I had a month ago is not here anymore, and I don't get to do the thing. So I took a couple minutes, I cried. I was crying, just because I needed to just let go. I just needed to let go and do that. And I recognized like I had not had any time where I just like had a thought. Like just thought about, how do I feel about this stuff? And so I want to suggest, and we have to be examples for other mamas across the country who are watching this right now. It's okay. Take your hour, girl. Take it. And my
thing is too, is that we don't have to be vision of what we see in the media or, commercials of what your typical family looks like. Every household is different, especially when you're coming from different cultural backgrounds, So to me, what I always tell parents, do what you can do. We're not meant to be perfect. Nobody knows your baby more than you do. You are an expert. And as I've always said for years and years, I've always told parents, you're the most powerful person in any space. So do what you have to do. You are a doctor, you are a nurse, you're a psychiatrist, you're a psychologist, you're a speech therapist, you're an ABA therapist. You are all of those in one, and that's okay. And we don't get paid for it, but you are all those things. Just do what you can with your child. I wouldn't, like everyone, even myself, the first week when all this happened, I'm like, I got to get these kids on a schedule, and oh my goodness, and they have to learn. And I started printing all these like math sheets and all this stuff. And then I realized, I'm like, I just want to enjoy this time with my kids. And I want to enjoy them being happy and not stress them out with the world stressors that we're kind of going through, and how to kind of say, hey guys, so what did you like about school? What didn't you like about school? And what can we do different at home? I did a video where one of my sons says, I'd rather be home. I'd rather learn from home. You've always taught us at home, because the birth of Autism Sprinter started with me literally using Facebook, recording myself doing therapeutic, things with my son, because I was.
Let's stop right there, because I want folks to understand like the expertise. Like I love being able to get your perspective as a mama, but you are also a fierce warrior for kids. And you have an incredible organization here in Massachusetts, Autism Sprinter. I want to learn all about that, but your reach and your impact and what you've been able to do just by using Facebook, by using all of this technology has brought together this powerful network of special needs mamas with that cultural intersectionality. You're not seeing Black and brown folks, frankly, in a lot of these spaces talking about autism, talking about our children with special needs, our struggle, some of the cultural barriers that also keep us out of conversations and we struggle with as well as we learn about this as a culture. So you're a force to be reckoned with, outside the home too. So tell us exactly, like give us the story of Autism Sprinter and your work.
So that's how it kind of started. So I found myself that when my son was diagnosed, I was trying to figure things out. I'm trying to reach out all these resources, these agencies, anything. And I'm like, I feel like I was sprinting through time, right? Because as we know, as it was mentioned before, you only have a certain amount of time to get access to these services because the waiting lists are ridiculous. And so one of the first things that I observed immediately was there's so many agencies that provide a service, but guess what? None of them are in the inner city communities of Boston, and a lot of them are not necessarily in communities that are a lot of people of color, and so I'm like, wait. So, as a mom, if I want quality care or quality service, I have to leave Boston to go to a social skill group outside of Boston. And so I started making a lot of observations. And so I said, what can I do as a mom to making sure that I can help my son? And so I took it to Facebook. I started going on YouTube, Pinterest, and all these sites and learning all these activities. Then I accommodated and altered it to meet the needs of my son. And so then I started live streaming them, recording them, and putting them on Facebook. And one of my college friends reached out to me, Edwin Frias, and he goes, Yahaira, I need you to do something with this. And I'm like, do what? I mean, I'm already using Facebook. And he goes, no, like, I think you need to start teaching parents that they can become, their own therapists and learn all these tools on their own so that they can have the skills and not have to depend on providers. And I was like, okay, that sounds great. And so I started with like a Google blogger. He's like, no, like, this is what I'm going to do. So he bought me the domain. He set everything up for me. And then that's when kind of Autism Sprinter kind of launched. And it was literally through a friend of mine from college who put it all this together. And a lot of my friends and, my close family and friends have said, you need to, parents, especially parents of color in the Latino community, they need to see this and they need to learn that they too are, parent experts, and that they can do these tools at home to help their children while they're on a 6-month waiting list for services.
And it's so important for so many different reasons. Not only the content that you provide for us so that we can learn as moms and, kind of and dads and step into our own expertise, but the cultural barrier, because that is a real thing in the Latino community. I remember the struggle in my house about whether or not my oldest son should go on medication. Like that is not always an acceptable
medication.
Not like we should go through testing for autism or for ADHD, because like cultural conflict is real, and like
yes, it is.
It's not necessarily acceptable. Like if you are not able to just listen to daddy or listen to mommy or focus or behaviors, like that is not always seen as being a learning disability or some of those things. You know what I mean? It's like it's being okay with that conversation, introducing it as an acceptable concept. The ideas that kids need support in different ways, and it's okay to be identified in these different ways. And all of these things, we need to be having conversations in our community about that it's culturally acceptable. And then unlocking, like, okay, mommy knew something was wrong and wanted to help you. How do I help you? How do I do it? And people look for those resources because you brought them to life in your own home, and you bring that in, and then you connect all of us, which is beautiful as well.
Yeah. And, and then for me, I grew up in old school Puerto Rican household. So we're not having arroz con habichuela and chuletas at dinner time and talking about mental health. We're not going to be talking about, going to see a specialist because we feel like, there's something that we feel like is wrong and we need help, So I didn't come up in a household where we talked about things like that. But I did grow up in a household where, if my family needed anything and we were going through something, it's like all hands on deck, and my mom has been the most instrumental, along with their grandmother on dad's side. If it wasn't for these two women, I could not be sitting here today talking about the journey and having to deal with service providers coming to my house, dealing with the schools, advocating for their needs, access and resources, being able to have a mom's night out from time to time. If it was not for my mom and their grandmother on dad's side, I would not be sitting here literally today being able to speak on my journey and sharing my truth, because they were instrumental in literally keeping me sane, because there were times that I'm like, I can't do this. This is awful. I felt helpless. There were plenty of times that I would be in the bathroom escaping all of this and crying. It was difficult, because when you get a diagnosis, most doctors, when they give you a diagnosis, they tell you what your child is not going to be able to do, right? And I don't understand why I don't understand if that's more of a thing to kind of cover themselves. I don't really understand it. But the minute that doctor told me that my son was not going to be able to talk and that he wasn't going to be able to do this, like, I don't know, something just triggered my feelings in my brain, and I went on complete action mode. I'm like, oh, that's what you're going to say? Guess what? I'm going to prove you wrong, because I'm going to make sure that my child has the ability to live like anyone else. And if that's not the case, we're going to work through this out. And literally it turned me into a person that I thought that I never knew even really lived in me. Like, I've always been very vocal about certain things, but if it wasn't for this challenge, I wouldn't be able to sit here literally today without being able to activate and amplify my voice in a way that is touching people's lives in a lot of different places throughout the world.
And Yahaira, you do an extraordinary job, and that's why we're so grateful we're putting up the Autism Sprinter.
Hey, that's our Autism Sprinter superhero party.
No, we love it. We love it. And we're so proud of you being a part of the National Parents Union and coming onto our council as well. Before we let you go, because we only have a few minutes here, I would be remiss if I did not ask you about how you think schools are doing right now in terms of servicing our children with special needs, making sure that their IEPs are being followed, making sure that their rights are protected, and making sure that our kids get what they deserve, even during this very difficult time. I mean, it's been a struggle, just to get things translated, just to get information out of school districts, out of the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education here in Massachusetts. What's your take on that?
So I want to start by saying that I'm disappointed in the U.S. Department of Education because their first press release, as soon as cities and towns and states were shutting down, school closures, their first release statement was special education kids are not going to get services. That, I think, just set the whole special education community on fire. We're like, what do you mean? And then, but it was such a rude awakening because throughout this whole pandemic, the first thing you do as a U.S. Department of Education on a federal level is specifically attack your most vulnerable people in your community, which are those people with disabilities. So that's telling. And I think that from that point forward, big shout out to a lot of advocates throughout the nation. They activated immediately and started holding their elected bodies accountable to saying, no, this is not right. And so as of March 21st, the U.S. Department of Education has issued a release that says that children with special education on IEPs of 504 are in their right to receive a free appropriate public education. They're entitled to services. And I know this is difficult because if you are a parent who is living in a low income and don't have access to any form of technology, and then now all of a sudden we went from not having classrooms to now we're doing everything virtually. It's the whole thing right now is a complete disaster, is a hot mess.
You're throwing hot spots around and people don't even know how to use that.
Use them. Yeah. And what it really shows is that, technology is not a privilege. When a lot of these families apply for government assistance, to be able to be home for their kids, to get all these therapies, you have a lot of these government assistance applications that tells you that, having a phone is a privilege, and having, technology in a car is a privilege. No, it's not. It's a necessity. It's 2020. None of these things are a privilege anymore. It's a necessity. And this global pandemic has literally exposed the truth about how flawed our systems are and how it always attacks the most vulnerable people in our community, the disabled, mental health, and those in low-income communities. And for the founder of Autism Sprinter, I think that a lot of the messages and Facebook group posting that I've seen, our parents are confused as to how a child who is nonverbal is going to even access Google Classroom, and how are they going to learn virtually when this is something that was never presented to them. And most importantly, there's a lot of agencies that are no longer doing, in-home services, for ABA. So now they're doing things virtually. And some parents are saying, my child gets in front of the computer in 5 minutes, they're done, because they're like, what is this? Like, I want to go see you. I'm used to seeing you once a week, and now I have to see you through a computer. So that triggers kids' minds to say, wait, I'm home, but I'm supposed to be seeing this person, and it's been a difficult situation for those families, especially those with children who have significant delays. I think that they've been impacted the most. I think parents who have children who are high functioning autistics, who are verbal, are dealing with what they can deal with, what was presented at the table. But I think that the most population that is affected the most right now is the families who have children with significant delays, and how do they really help their children, because they're not an ABA specialist, they're not a special education teacher, they're not OT, they're not occupational therapists, they're not physical therapists, they're not psychiatrists. So now they have to figure all this out. They just don't know what to do. And I don't think anybody's telling them, and I'm hearing that most of them have not even been able to, communicate with their special education teacher to say, hey, where do we go from here,
And this is the real talk that we need, and this is the conversation that needs to be elevated so that folks are hearing it, so people hear it directly from the folks who are impacted by these situations. And I can't thank you enough for your advocacy, for your fight. This is hopefully the first of many conversations that you and I are going to have on this medium. We're going to open up every channel we possibly can so that your voice is heard, Yahaira, because you are the truth. And this is the message that needs to be heard by our elected officials, our policymakers on every right now. So your connection, what you're doing with Autism Sprinter, what you're doing with disabilities in color, which I think is beautiful, like making sure that this conversation is intersectional, and we are bringing everybody who should have a place at the table to the table. Yeah. It's critical. We're going to have to hold it there. First of many conversations with you, Yahaira. Thank you so much for everything.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
And we have your back in whatever you need. And so we're going to continue this fight. Thank you for being with us this morning, and we're going to continue this.
All right. Thank you. Bye, guys.
She's amazing. She is just absolutely incredible, the work that she does, and the gift that she is to all of us by using her resources. She puts it all on the line. This is a mama who is in addition to doing this incredible work, is also delivering food to families in her communities as well, because that's what mamas do.
That's right.
That's what the organizations that make up the National Parents Union do. We're on the front lines helping our communities, and that's why we've got to stay strong. We've got to stay united. And do our best work. When going gets tough, this is the organization that I'm just so proud, to see get going, because this is so powerful.
And speaking of supporting each other, I need to keep you fed. So here's your breakfast.
Oh, look.
Peanut butter bagel. Got to keep her happy and fed.
That's right. He does. He keeps me very happy and well fed. So I'm blessed. Folks, thank you so much for being with us this morning. An important conversation, always an important conversation.
That's right. That was great.
A little bit of fun, a little bit of information, but we're so grateful you're with us. So make sure you share this broadcast with other folks that could use it. We know the audience is growing. Like we said, almost 500,000 people.
500,000 people have seen our recordings now.
My goodness. So we're blessed for that, and we hope that it continues. So thanks for being with us this morning, and we'll see you tomorrow. Special thanks to all of our people who have commented today. Juanita was on fire today. Tash Fear as well. Thank you very much. Judith is on there. Thank you all so much. Sorry if we couldn't answer all your questions, but we're glad to have you. And again, happy National Doctors Day. Please be grateful for what they're doing for us today, and stay safe, everyone. Enjoy your day.